That was a crazy.
Oh, hey, Joel. He says bye. Come on back.
I don't think Joe. That must have been from the other. It must just came back over from that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's what happened. All right, let me get
Richard
my
talking about Victor and his cosmic cookie.
who?
Victor was. Richard. What were you talking about? Victor and his cosmic cookie. I saw that as a comment.
I didn't see that.
That was at the end. And Mr. Rollerson had he wrote a book about Kevin Sullivan on there.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
I didn't see that. I mean, a good book.
Charles, match number 3. Yes. I'm here for big coat real quick. I'll tell him real quick.
Yeah, tell that real quick.
All right. First one that I did was in Columbus, Mississippi. This was in 1987. And basically the mink coat tournament was a rigged deal. All right. They had a plant in the audience. So the wrestlers, the fans would come in, they would fill out, put their name on the back of their ticket and put it in the box that they thought would win the mink coat tournament. Well, before the matches, we would draw the names. Well, it came up, and I think Wendell Cooley was supposed to win that night, and I'm supposed to call out the name, which was the plant and the audience. So I call out the name, and not one but 2 people stood up and said, "Hey, it's me." And I'm thinking, what in the world? So I tell Dad, I said, "Hey, I had 2 people stood up, and this is the one that," and the mink coat came from Linda Marks. And Linda Marks was a big supporter of the wrestlers. She helped out with the Robert Fuller, and she got most of the robes and the jackets that Robert and Jimmy were wearing. And so this mink coat was her, and I'm sure it was worth several $1,000s, so probably over $5,000. It had this brooch on it. So I went down and I talked to the lady. I said, "Now let me just make sure I have your name right." And she told me her name. So I went back and I told Robert, I said, "Robert, I had 2 people stand up." And I said, would you recognize the person that's supposed to be? And he said, no, he said, "Don't worry about it. If it comes up, we'll offer the person $500 and we'll get rid of it. We'll get out of it that way." I said, "What if they don't want the $500? What if they want the mink coat?" I said, "What are you going to tell Linda?" So I went back to the lady. I said, let me go talk to this one just real quick, just one more time. So I went and talked to her, and I said, "Now, if you should win this, you'll come down to ringside and we'll present you with the mink coat." She said, "Yes." And then I think I'm supposed to meet Robert outside to give it back to him, right? I said, yes. Had the right one. But I sweat through that whole show thinking we had 2 people. But most of the ones in 87 were all had that plant. The ones in 88, they actually bought mink coats or coats to give away at the mink coat tournament. That's my story.
Wasn't he?
Yeah,
they were Fox. They were gray. Yeah, that's
but
our.
They were still worth like $350 a piece.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
in that time period. That was quite a bit of money.
Yeah, yeah. So it was all right. You were telling that story. And it reminds me when we talk about Linda Marks, Wayne Ferris does not give Linda Marks the credit on anything that he talks about. She is the one that bought him the Elvis Presley jumpsuit that first one he ever had. And he talks about a fan did it, which is very, very disrespectful to Linda Marks. She actually bought the thing for him and went that far. You think he could at least say, Linda Marks bought this jumpsuit for me, the Elvis Presley jumpsuit. I just think that's pretty to say a fan. I mean, I think she'd be more than a fan. But
well, we all know my feelings of the honky tonk man. So.
Let's see. I don't think Joel Bateman is with us. I don't think he's a supporter, is he? Charles Bellflower match number 3 is scheduled for one fall with a 40-minute time limit. I am here, Michael Barr, and he talked about the mink coat. Richard Hood just checking in. Michael Barr said, "We all keep overlooking my comments. I'm coming to Birmingham, and we're going to have a powwow." You can come to Birmingham all you want.
Yeah, because none of us are in Birmingham, so unless you're buying lunch, and that's only an hour from me.
That's right. Well, there's Dreamland Barbecue's there. So
believe me, yeah, if Dreamland Barbecue, and if you want to gripe at me for an hour, hey, I've been divorced twice. I don't mind.
Let's see. Hello, Richard. Dan Lang said that in 1991, Owen Hart wrestled a match for WCW, which I didn't know this, as he negotiated with them. How different things would have been if he had signed the contract. It was yesterday, wasn't it? Or was it today? I think it was yesterday.
Remember, I knew it was close, though.
Man, I can't believe it was that many years ago, his death. But, I don't know what kind of impact Owen Hart would have had on WCW.
I can tell you. He wouldn't have had one because they didn't know what they were doing with what they got.
That's true. That's true. They didn't.
And
know
that is certainly nothing against Owen, because Owen could have been a major player everywhere he was at, but nobody utilized his potential. WWE did not put him to his full potential. No, had a great match. If anybody ever saw the match with him and Brett, I think was that Survivor Series, or was that wasn't a WrestleMania? Was it maybe a SummerSlam? I don't remember. I just remember the match. In fact, if we ever do the greatest matches in history, to me, that's going to be in that top 10. That's one of the best matches I've ever seen.
Well, I'm pretty sure we will hit that, because that'll be a good thing to talk about. What do you think, Rodney?
That would have been a terrible mistake on his part to sign with WCW, because like Jack was saying, they had no clue. No clue.
Charles says, speaking of Kansas City, today in 1973, Harley Race won the title from Dory Funk Jr. Man, I'd love to see that match.
Like when men were men.
No, don't say that.
I think that
made people.
I don't care.
I think that match is actually on YouTube, and that when Harley beat Dory Funk Jr., it shocked the entire place. It just shocked that crowd. It was just like a silence went over the crowd when they presented him with a belt. It was because Dory had not been defeated for 4 years. There was not one of those, I dropped the belt. He dropped the belt 1 minute and then next week he gained it back. No, he held it 4 years straight.
All right, Jack, you have a mask that would picture on Facebook that I would like to have made.
Yeah, just hit me up.
So he's saying he would make it for you. So there you go. He didn't say it's going to be $300, but he can make it for you.
Hey, let me tell you how far off the deep end I will go for money. I've got a guy that I've got to make an Auburn mask for, and I'm trying to find some rubber gloves to wear while I'm doing it, because I don't want to touch all that.
Hey, by the way, I believe some Alabama masks can sell very good at the flea market. I'm telling you, it could really sell good. Jack, the honky tonk man looks different now. Yeah, have y'all seen him?
Yeah.
He's let his hair go completely. I'm guessing it's gray.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even really look like the same guy.
Well, I about had all that pompadour I could stand anyway.
You know, it's funny because people talk about him and they'll say, well, he changed when he became. No, he was that way before he was the honky tonk man. His way he was the way he was in 1980 when he came to Atlanta. He had that same attitude and he wasn't no big star by no stretch of the imagination. Was he, Rodney?
No.
He was just, that was him. That was Wayne Ferris. He just had chip on his shoulder. He just did. He got mad at Dad because he told him, he said, Wayne, just let Kevin Sullivan do all the interview. Said, because you You say things you can't say on TBS.
He talked about pig slop on TBS and said, we can't talk about pig slop. You're not in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So the pig slop, the slop farmers and all that, you can't talk about that on TBS. They won't allow us to play it.
So he told him, he said, Kevin Sullivan you'll have to, because Kevin Sullivan and Wayne Ferris is going to be on part of the Thanksgiving tournament, tag team tournament. They were going to be in the tag team tournament. I believe they were both working maybe in Memphis at the time, because I don't think Kevin Sullivan was there full time.
Either that or up in Knoxville for
could have been Knoxville
for Blackjack and Ric Flair.
Yes, he could have. That's where they could have been working. Stuart Kemp, I've had this when I was booking a tag tournament and trying to recall the teams. I had them in a box. I forgot my teams. I was able to cover it up, and man, it was tough, but it went off.
You know the lesson there, Stuart. Don't do it. You don't have to worry about it. They get this up and up. Just don't do it. That's my answer to that.
Hungry Tongue Man have been friends for years. Well, we won't.
My condolences.
I thought it was yesterday. I thought it was only that passed away yesterday. Just a horrible thing. Wayne Ferris is who he is, and that's all you can say. He is who he is. He's not changed. He's always been that way. So, how about discussing the Cadillac tournaments and the pole battle royals in Continental Championship Wrestling sometime? Yes, we can do that. We got a funny story we can tell about a pole battle royal that I don't believe it wasn't Andalusia, was it, Rodney? It was
a National Guard armory like in Florala or Flomaton or
we'll tell that story.
It might have been Crestview or Milton, Florida or something like that.
We'll just give you a little bit of thing. We'll tell you the story that it happened. The Nightmares was a part of it. Lord Humongous, Boomer H. Lynch. Is a funny story. We'll share that story that happened at Blindfold Battle Royal, and we'll also talk about the Cadillac tournaments that happened, and mostly they did a couple of them, and I think they did a couple of what you don't remember the Broncos,
Yes,
Bronco tournaments for the Broncos or the
That's correct.
Said it was. Richard Hood said Owen had a cup of coffee. I never knew he was there. Never knew he had a match in WCW. I really didn't. We were there until that was, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't watching the TV show. We were there and we were doing the developmental towns, but I told Grizzly Smith one time, he said, well, you don't know who that guy is? I said, no, I don't watch the show. I don't watch it. I'm sorry, I don't. And it's not because I wasn't able to watch it. I was gone. I go to watch the show. I was not around to watch it. And then I told him, I said, I work the rest of the week. I said, I work Monday through Thursday. I just do this on Friday and Saturday. We don't have time to watch these things. And I'm having to work 40 hours before I get there. So I said, that's the reason you guys didn't pay me nothing. But you pay Michael Buffer $10,000. Now y'all got me started on all of this. By the way, Michael Buffer got $10,000 for do one match. Match.
Yep.
They didn't even want to pay us our motel to go somewhere. What territory was there ever a greatest match that anyone here can remember? I'm going to say Dick Slater Wrestling 2. I think those matches were tremendous.
Of course, I love Wrestling 2 and Mass Superstar. So,
Rodney,
all personal preferences.
Every territory had great matches in it.
Yeah,
Bill Dundee and Dutch Mantel against Wendell Cooley and Al Perez tore that place apart. They stole the show completely. Midnight Express and the Rock and Roll Express, just great matches. The Nightmares and Tommy and Johnny Rich, or the Nightmares and Jerry Stubbs and Dirty White Boy. And
hey, let's be honest, the Nightmares against Broomsticks would have been a heck of a match.
I mean, every place there was great matches. Not just, I mean, it's just, awesome.
And that was a time period where you had to have great matches.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a great.
You had to make. That's the way you made money. There was no guaranteed contracts.
we saw a great match with Andre the Giant and Bob Armstrong against Dennis Condrey and David Schultz in Athens, Tennessee.
Oh,
And I mean, it was just an awesome match. Awesome match. You look forward to the next one, but they never did have a next one.
well, I mean, we saw great matches. Buzz Sawyer and Brad Armstrong,
Yes.
one of the great matches, and that was in Etowah, Tennessee, of all places. The guys didn't have this outlook of going, oh, we're in Etowah. It don't matter what we do. But I will tell you, as it got to the late 80s, that attitude was really bad. Really bad about, oh, we're in Albertville, Alabama. It don't matter. It don't matter what we do. And it mattered what you did everywhere, because how you going to get the people from Albertville if your match sucks and it's boring and that means nothing? How are you going to get them to Birmingham at the Boutwell Auditorium on Monday night? You want them to travel in. That's the reason you're in Albertville. You wanted those people to watch the wrestling and travel into Birmingham on a Monday night.
Let's go ahead
and talk about the world champion.
There's another one. Jack Victory and Dale Vesey. Great match. Stole the show in Vicksburg, Mississippi. There were great matches all over. I mean, great matches all over.
All right, let's do this thing. Let's do the World Champion Series, and let's do it before we talk all night and don't do our YouTube videos. All right, y'all ready? You got yours open, Rodney?
Yes. Hold on just a minute.
All right. Whoa. All right, tell me when you're ready. I did send it to you.
I did. I'm here. Hold on. I'm popping it up. Okay, go. Wait, boom, and then another boom.
And by the way, Richard Hood did say he meant talked, not talked. Well, he taught a lot of people stuff too. How to use all kinds of profanity that didn't even go together.
Hey, Richard, what's a cosmic cookie?
Hey, while we're doing this, find out what a cosmic cookie is, and we'll get back to you. All right, here we go. Going in 5.
Cosmic cookie.
Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. We continue our look at the world champions on the World Champion Series. The next champion, he would not get a lot of recognition. Jack, let's start that off.
The World Heavyweight Championship picture would get even more complicated when John Olin would defeat Joe Stetcher on December 11th, 1916 in Springfield, Massachusetts to become the World Heavyweight Champion. Johann Frederick John Olin was a Finnish wrestler who competed in the 1912 Summer Olympics. He won the silver medal in the heavyweight class. So how did the world title picture get complicated? On December the 11th, 1916, Olin captured a claim to the World Heavyweight Championship after a controversial bout with Joe Stetcher in Springfield, Massachusetts. In one of the great forgotten matches and upsets in wrestling history, he defeated Stetcher. After 2 hours and 40 minutes, both wrestlers ended up outside the ring brawling. Olin wanted to continue, but Stetcher declined to return to the ring. Olin was awarded the bout by the referee. Stetcher injured his shoulder during the match and was out of the ring for 1.5 months. In newspaper reports, no mention of the title is made. Why the public continued to support Stetcher is unclear. John Olin's promoters claimed the world title, but Olin was mild-mannered and didn't make much noise about being the champion. It may be that the press refused to accept Olin as champion because his win was a fluke due to injury, and no one believed Olin could truly defeat Stetcher. Also, Frank Gotch was still alive at the time, and many still saw him as the real world champion. As Stetcher didn't consider himself defeated, the idea of Olin as champ had much going against it. This claim to the title, called the Olin line by historians, did continue.
So I got to talk about this just for a second. It all goes back to Frank Gotch. We have talked about it on our other series when we did talk about that Frank Gotch did not pass the torch. This is where the problem comes in when you have a World Heavyweight Championship. People still looked at Frank Gotch as a champion. Major problems, don't y'all think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And he should have, for the sake of the business, should have passed the torch. He should have done, as we like to say, the job.
All right.
As far as I'm concerned. All right. So before the National Wrestling Alliance made changes to the rules in the 1950s, championships changed hands through disqualification or countout. The result of this match should have led to Olin being recognized as the world champion. However, most newspapers did not recognize the title change. Since the match would have been a work or prearranged exhibition, Stetcher should have won. Olin wasn't known outside of his home state. Stetcher wouldn't drop the title to Olin until he was more well-known. In the match itself, Stetcher dominated as expected, but oddly, Olin was able to withstand Stetcher's legendary scissor hold twice for the first time for 20 minutes and then for the second time for 14 minutes. While Stetcher would want to make Olin look good for future matches, it was unusual for Olin to have survived Stetcher's pet finishing hold once, much less twice. After 2 hours of wrestling, Stetcher and Olin rolled off the platform where they were wrestling. Olin surprised Stetcher by grabbing Stetcher's wrist and throwing him over some chairs. Olin's obvious foul should have led to a disqualification, but referee Jim Barnes took no action. Jim Olin climbed back up onto the mat. Stetcher stared at him for several seconds, turned around, and left the competition area. Barnes awarded the match to Olin based on Stetcher's withdrawal. Olin's manager, and that's a name that I will not say, Ludden, Mr. Ludden, let's just say, claimed the title.
The newspapers, which were the sports mass media at the time, still recognized Stetcher as the champion, expressed surprise at his loss. I think the loss may have been an attempted double cross, which Stetcher short-circuited by walking back to the dressing room. When Stetcher was fouled so obviously by Olin and he was not disqualified, I think he was suspicious of the referee. Olin couldn't have beaten Stetcher in a catch-as-can match. The only way was to double-cross Stetcher would be to fix the referee. If Stetcher lost on the mat by referee's decision, Olin would have much better claim to the title. Stetcher returning to the dressing room after an obvious foul gave him a stronger case that the loss didn't mean loss of his title. If Stetcher had a rematch with Olin, I would have thought the controversy was a setup for future matches. However, they didn't wrestle again until 1920. While professional wrestling had firmly moved into a work era by 1916, the champions always had to be wary of double crosses. If the double cross was successful, the wrestlers had no choice but to go along with it or expose the business. Double crosses became much more common in the 1920s and the 1930s. This incident demonstrates the double crosses were occupational hazard anytime you worked a match.
After Joe Stetcher lost the title to John Olin by countout, Olin started his own line of the title, and Stetcher continued as the world champion as well. But the next world champion on the Stetcher line would become Earl Craddock on April 9, 1917 in Omaha, Nebraska. He was the 7th recognized world champion. Earl Craddock was born February 27, 1888 in Huron, South Dakota, to parents of German Jewish heritage. His family name may have been Craddock or Craddock or Caddock, but he used the spelling Caddock exclusively throughout his wrestling career. As a child, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis, and the family moved to Chicago, where he would be treated. Swimming was recommended as part of this treatment, and he was given a membership in the local YMCA to facilitate this. During this time at the YMCA, young Earl Craddock was exposed to wrestling, and his father After his father was killed in a bizarre accident in which he fell down a manhole, Earl moved to his uncle's farm in Anita, Iowa. He continued to wrestle and won many local championships. In 1907, he returned to Chicago to enter college. There, he received further training from Benny Rubin and joined the Chicago Athletic Association. It was around this time that he met Charlie Cutler and Ernest Cartjake, two professional wrestlers. From 1914 to 1915, Earl won the AAU Light Heavyweight Championship twice and the AAU Heavyweight Championship once.
All right. Through Cutler and Carjake, Haddock was introduced to Frank Gotch and Martin Farmer Burns, who began training him for professional wrestling. On June 8th, 1915, Earl Caddock, is it right, Caddock or Caddock, made his professional debut in a match against Jesse Westergaard. That's another one, a big name, Westergaard, in a handicap match at the Anita Opera House. Westergaard agreed to pin Caddock twice in an hour, but no falls were recorded within the time limit. Under the handicap rules, Caddock was awarded the win, and it was an impressive debut considering the competition. Although not many of his results were known, from 1909 to 1914, Caddock was the dominant amateur middleweight and light heavyweight in the country. A story later reported in the newspaper is that local farmer in Beara, Iowa, arranged a match between two local champion amateurs, Caddock and heavyweight Joe Stetcher. The two wrestled in a barn Andalusia, in a barn in the front of 38 people, Andalusia, with Stetcher winning 2 of the 3 falls. Stetcher turned pro, accepting his first purse of $3.80, Andalusia, while Caddock remaining an amateur. On July the 14th, 1915, Caddock was ringside to watch Joe Stetcher defeat Charlie Cutler for the world title. Stetcher was undefeated, and no one in wrestling had come close to taking a fall from him.
I believe this is Gene Malady and Oscar Thorson, the two major promoters in Midwest, visited Caddock. Well, I messed his name up. Malani was a rich rancher and livestock broker who had played on the first football team at Notre Dame and had been well known as an amateur boxer. Another big-time person who had money joining the wrestling business. His interest in sports and reputation as a responsible businessman led to promotion in the what's that word?
Rejuvenation.
Oh, thank you. Of the wrestling game. He had been the promoter of Big Stetcher versus Cutler card and was considered one of the powers in pro wrestling. Malady announced that he was working on a Dr. Ben Roller for Atlantic. The press soon started building Caddock into a contender for the world championship. On December 1st, 1915, he met his biggest challenge and a huge shooter named Marion Plestina was I'm thinking that Farmer Burns and Frank Gotch, I believe they might have been running the wrestling business at this point. It just seems like everything always leads to Frank Gotch and Farmer Burns, who later became an outlaw wrestler that challenged the power of the New York City Wrestling Trust by breaking kayfabe and exposing the business. He was immortalized in the book Fall Guys for losing Shootstead Lewis and getting fouled in a New York City match with John Pezick. I guess that's how you say that name. On this night, Plesta lost 2 straight falls to Earl, with Stetcher and Gotch watching ringside. In January 1916, he signed a contract to be managed by Mulaney. The two would stay together for the rest of Earl's career. Mulaney gave Caddock the title, the Man of 1,000 Holds, and we thought Les Thornton was the first guy that was there. It was a name later passed on to many wrestlers, but it fit none better than Earl. The actual number of holds may be exaggerated, but Earl was a graceful artist who used to use skill to overcome the savagery of wrestlers who outweighed and outstrengthened him, but could not outbrain him.
It is wrong to say that Caddock didn't have a favorite finishing hold, because he did use a head scissors to win in most of his major matches. He would get a head scissors on his opponent and then twist his body so that he was almost setting on the wrestler's head, and then completed the move by getting an arm bar. His weight then bore down until his opponent's shoulders were pinned. This move looked great and gave him a credible way to pin wrestlers 30 to 50 pounds heavier. During this time, the wrestling world was preparing for a super match between Frank Gotch, who, though retired, was still thought of as the world champion by the public, and the new king, Joe Stetcher. In May 1916, Caddock traveled with the Sales Floto Circus and helped train Gotch for the match. Every night, Earl would wrestle exhibitions with Gotch, Bob Mangaroff, or Farmer Barnes. World heavyweight boxing champion Jess Willard was also with the circus. On July 18th, Frank Gotch fractured his left leg wrestling Mangoff. The Big Gotch versus Stetcher match was off, and Gotch's health would continue to deteriorate. Wrestling's attention turned to the next big match, Stetcher versus Caddock.
Stetcher versus Caddock world title match was signed in March 1917 to be promoted by Milady and held in Omaha using a promotional tool, the great sports rivalry between Nebraska and Iowa. Earl trained at the famed Chicago Athletic Club with Charlie Cutler and Bob Manigoff. Hopefully I got that name right. Frank Gotch joined them in April, and he was in Caddock's corner the night of the match. The match took place on April the 9th, 1917, in a sold-out arena. The attendance was 7,500 with a gate of $14,000. But scalpers had been charging as much as $8 for a $1 ticket. Stetcher, who outweighed Caddock 205 to 180, was 3-1 favorite. But there wasn't much Caddock's money on the street, and some gamblers would give him a 5-1 odd in the action. The match started slowly, but with both wrestlers on their feet. Stetcher tried to take the challenger down, but Caddock blocking every attempt for almost an hour. Visualizing the terrible 5-hour Stetcher-Ed Lewis match of the year before, fans became restless. It seemed that the big bet on Caddock's Iowa followers had been that Stetcher would not throw Earl in an hour. And it was presumed that Earl was trying to make them money before taking any chances.
Their fears were forgotten when both wrestlers went on the offense and Stetcher gained the better of the action. At one point, Caddock fell from the ring and into the ringside seats, hitting his head. He did that a lot, I believe. He climbed back into the ring dazed, soon falling victim to Stetcher's body scissors and wrist lock, being put on his back and pinned. After 1 hour and 22 minutes, this was the first time Caddock had been pinned in his pro wrestling career. After the 10-minute rest, the wrestlers returned from the dressing room. At the start of the second fall, both wrestlers began to mix it up, but this time Caddock had the best of Stetcher. Many times, Caddock's quickness got him behind the champion, and Stetcher seemed powerless to stop him. At the 50-minute mark of the second fall, he took Stetcher down and got a pin, but the referee refused to allow the fall because both men were partially off the mat. The decision almost started a riot. His dominance of the exhausted Stetcher continued until Caddock actually won the second fall in 1 hour and 40 minutes until a reverse Nelson and head hold to pin Joe. The crowd went nuts as this was the first time that Stetcher had ever been pinned. Between falls, the wrestlers returned to the dressing rooms. At the completion of the rest, Caddock returned. Well, the dogs are going crazy now.
Man.
Caddock, but Stetcher did not. Joe, whatever his name is, his manager then came to the ring and announced that the champion could not continue the match. Caddock was awarded the match and the world title. Caddock had overgrown size with skill and speed to record one of the wrestling's biggest upsets, beating one of the greatest legends. His fame was no longer limited to Iowa.
Stetcher had many excuses for his fans that they had lost their wages betting on him. At first, he claimed he wasn't told to return to the ring and could have continued if he had been reminded of the time. Later, he claimed he lacked conditioning from wrestling weak opponents on the West Coast. He then blamed travel and an injury. By April 17th, he finally was saying he was beaten fairly. 2 weeks later, Craddock began defending his title with wins over Ivan Michaloff, probably Mangroff, and Billy Schoenberg. On April 30th, 1917, he defeated a Bill Hocuff at Waterloo, Iowa, and Frank Gotch refereeing the match. The only noteworthy thing about the match is that Hocuff, who outweighed Craddock by 50 pounds, won the second fall. This was the second time that Craddock had been pinned. My Lord. I apologize, y'all. And the 3 count was the only offense Hocuff had in the whole match. On May 1st, 1917, Craddock was scheduled to meet Frank Gotch in a short exhibition match, but that night the card was changed to Gotch beating Leo Cardello and Craddock versus Ernest Cartjake. To demonstrate the drawing power of the two, should be noted that the attendance was 10,000. John Olin was still claiming the world title due to his win over Stetcher as well.
I think at this point we'll mute Jack.
Yeah. Mute me. I'll be right back.
Up to this time, bookie professional wrestling matches seemed to be in the control of the wrestlers' managers. Win and losses were decided by who had the more popular client or by how much money they could be made from gamblers. It was very possible that the higher percentage of wrestlers' income came from betting than from the actual gates. Very sad. By the late teens, this reliance on gambling side of the sport was coming to an end due to public pressure and efforts of law enforcement. The power of professional wrestling was probably in the hands of Jim Milady, manager of Earl Craddock, who promoted Cutler versus Stetcher on July the 4th, 1915. Stetcher versus Lewis on July 4th, 1916, and Stetcher versus Craddock on April the 9th, 1917. By the end of 1917 and the beginning of 1918, the system led to a log jam and the long, tenuous draws that were a threat to the popularity of the sports. Around that time, around the time of this match, and the meeting was held between promoters, and I mean, there's a bunch of them, Gene Malati, Carl Marfigi, Oscar Thorson, Jack Curley, and Otto Flotto, and newspapermen such as Ed Smith and Sandy Griswold. Curley proposed rule changes such as time limit draws, decisions, and one-fall matches. It was Curley's idea to make wrestling more like boxing, with pins being like KOs and decisions accepted as true victories. Curley walked away from the meeting with his rule changes. Some of those lasted over time. New York City reliance on one-fall matches, while the less popular were hidden or thrown away. Nevertheless, Curley and New York City had shown newfound power over the sport.
You know, it's very interesting to look at this. You know, when we talk about the Gold Dust Trio, sometimes we fail to see the rest of the people who also made up some of the rules, like having one falls, not 2 out of 3 fall matches anymore. So maybe they came up with the ideal, or maybe they just took it from someone else. But as we see here, they actually had Otto Flotto, by the way, Flotto Circus, big time into professional wrestling at that time. If you enjoyed this video, give us the big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the video. Go one step further, hit that notification bell. And dogs barking. There is no place that you're going to get entertainment like this.
That's right.
There's no place you're going to get it just right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Out. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next series right here on the World Championship Wrestling Series as we continue with more of Pro Wrestling Inside Now. All right, we're going to have
That
to
sound like a huge mess.
They were mad because they could hear me talking and wanted to be in here with me.
Oh,
All right, let's hit this real quick, and then we'll move because we're running out of time real quick. So let's do this real quick. Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside Out. Brent West, which says Rodney West, Jack Lord, and Rodney West, and the dogs are with us.
That's one of them.
For some reason, every time this goes back to Rodney's name. For some reason, by the way, I'm not Rodney. I'm Brent West, but we'll let that play on. Let's go through, we've been getting a lot of good things. They're saying, "Listen, the real Rodney West, yeah, good. Well, the real Rodney West, please stand up." But we've been getting a lot of people that love to see in our programs and stuff. So let's go and look at these right now. This is a program on the front of it. This was, I think, it was for Columbus, Georgia. Municipal Auditorium. Here we see the front of the program has the Iron Sheik on there. Iran #1, USA. The Iron Sheik. Let me see if I can go and bring this up big here, the Iron Sheik. Program 50 Cent. What year was this, Rodney?
This was probably 82.
1982.
Look at me once again.
All right, here we go. Here's the next one. We see Roy Rogers. As he's named then, it says Johnny Rich, a.k.a. Roy Rogers. The Serious Michael, the original Freebird Michael Hayes. And there's Tom Pritchard. Spelled his name wrong on there as well.
He still hadn't got over that either.
I don't think he's ever going to get over that. Tom Pritchard right there. Here we've got Buzz Sawyer. Paul Orndorff and Don Morocco. Tito Santana Arriba. Tito Santana. You know, they said that Tito Santana didn't get a big push in Atlanta. He wasn't there long enough to really get a push, I don't think. I think he could have got over there. But here it is. Promoter Fred Ward bringing you the very best in wrestling action. There you go, Rodney. Can you read that card? Because I
did National Tag Team Championship. No disqualification. We never put DQ. What moron did that? The Samoans, Alpha and Sika, managed by Sonny King versus the fabulous Freebirds Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy. 2 referees and a special. We don't know what special what, but it's a special. The Iron Sheik versus Tito Santana, plus Zatar versus Jerry Oates. Crazy Luke Graham against Tom Pritchard. Mac Bourne against Johnny Rich. And that was all at Columbus Municipal Auditorium. 5,000 seats in there.
Yeah, and it says August 25th, 1982. They did a great job just taking them pictures and just cutting those things out right there. They just cut their heads out of them pictures and just put them on there.
It looks very classy.
On the back of this, the Lucky Number program on here, that also came through some of the people that was there. Benjamin Blackwell, Bob Andre, and Tyrone Powell had won tickets to the matches, I believe. Back then, anyone using profanity will be removed from the auditorium. Here we go. As we see, Samoan. Is that Brad Armstrong? I think he's got the sleeper hold on the Samoan.
What's that, Bob?
Oh, is that Bob? All right. Okay. All right. In the back of this one. Whoops. I'm knocking stuff off on the back of this one. Terry Gordy. Hulk Hogan right here. Hulk Hogan on the program for Crazy Luke Graham, Crazy Like a Fox, Bobby Simmons in that. And there you see Mass Wrestler Superstar number 2, Give Everything to Win. I can't believe they put Hulk Hogan in this.
We're talking about his role in the movie, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, when you see Rocky 3, don't be surprised if the wrestler Thunderlips, Mountain of Lust. Looks familiar. Yes, that blonde grappler surrounded by beautiful women is none other than Hulk Hogan. After his stint in front of cameras, Hogan plans to resume his mat career in Florida. he didn't do that. He assures us his stint in Hollywood failed to make him into a scientific wrestler. As some people say, he didn't even make himself a wrestler. That's what some people. I didn't say that. All right, here we go.
It sounds like you were saying that we were just blaming on some people. Apparently, you work with today's media.
I wanted to show this. Everybody talk about Jerry Stubbs and being the Matador. Here he is as the Matador. Had great outfits and stuff that matched his mask. It was just tremendous. It was a tremendous thing. We were also that we were talking there about Killer Carl Cox. There he is right there. He was the Southeastern heavyweight champion. I'm not for sure. Do you remember who these little wrestlers are?
Looks like I'm going to say Cowboy Lang was one of them. I bet he's the one with the hat on. And the other,
I bet he was too.
Little Brook, maybe?
I don't know if it's Little Brook or not. It could have been, but I don't know. They don't look like them. But here's the French Angel, now managed by Mephisto, and on the other side, a guided by the great Mephisto, the Manchurians became the area tag team champions. Wildfire Tommy Rich, now on the disabled list, will be in action. Was that when Austin Idol, Harley Race broke his leg?
Richard Hood was saying that was Billy the Kid on the back, which is probably about right.
Billy the Kid, okay. I didn't know.
He was the one with the hat.
And let's see the next program. The next one here is the Jerry Stubbs again as the Matador. By the way, Michael, do not call that number. It will not work.
And Les Thatcher, the wrestler's eye view.
Yes. And here's Dick Slater reading, making sure that everything is A-OK with the
spelled correctly. Yes.
Making sure it's all took care of. And as you see on the front of that.
Wait a minute. Does it say typos right there? Is that what that said? No, it doesn't say typos.
Who said I know it's some type of typos on this?
No. It is this. You had the editor I saw was Bob Polk. What does it say beside him?
It says typist.
Typist. I thought it said
Belinda Linter. I did contact these people. They had threw away everything that they had did. Look at a very young Robert Gibson right here.
Now this is not Knoxville here. This is Nick Goulas right here, right?
This is Nick Goulas. Yeah, this is.
He had the Slam-O-Gram.
Done by Scott Teal, by the way. Here is a very young Terry Gordy, and Terry Gordy, Michael Hayes. They were the Fabulous Freebirds by then, by the way. They had called themselves the Fabulous Freebirds at that time. When they actually came to, I believe that when they came here to Chattanooga area, they became the Fabulous Freebirds. I believe they called themselves the Freebirds from the time they got here. The Jet Set, as we see, the Jet Set, Bobby Eaton, George Goulas.
This picture with Tojo and Gypsy Joe appeared many times.
Yes.
In the program.
Yes, they put that on there a lot. I'll tell you what, here's Body Slammers. Here I have to read this. Body Slammers whip cartilage and PTO and shootout on March 10th. The Body Slammers. By the way, the Body Slammers was the group of wrestlers who played basketball before the matches. But it says on March 10th, the Body Slammers won handily over the PTO. Team 97-63. The PTO team stayed with the Slammers until the second quarter when the board's strength and great shooting put the game out of their reach. During the course of the game, there was plenty of slam dunks by E.G. Jr., former Maplewood football star. Well, shows that he could play basketball as well. Big Jim Morris of Bowling Green also provided fans a lot of thrills with his dunks. Leading the score with the body slammers, George Goulas, 29 points. George Goulas got 29 points. Jim Morris gave him good support as he chipped in 23 points. Jim Morris, where do I know that name, Jim Morris? Not for sure, but hey, next time you talk to Bobby Eaton, ask him that about this, Jack. He said other scorers was E.G. Jr. with 18 points. Bobby Eaton got 6 points. 6 points on this one. Mike Mann with 6. Tommy Hagee did 6 points. Chuck Connors with 5, and Dwight Morris with 4. I don't know half of these wrestlers is on this thing.
Tommy Hagee's coming to our next show, as a matter of fact.
I have a feeling.
Well, ask him about his 6 points as well.
Okay.
I can see
you know what I guarantee you, if they would have went against the Washington Generals, this would have went way different. I'll tell you right now.
And they wonder why 1979 was their end of the year. I understand why they went out of business. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this, we won't go through anymore. We got a couple other things we can go through. I believe. Give us the big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go one step further. Hit that notification bell and share the video. Until the next video, on behalf of me, Rodney West, and the real Rodney West, and Jack Lord, we'll see you in the next video.
Instead of doing a wrestling show, we probably could just do puppy fights.
Really could. Hey, I'm still saying I would not be surprised if the opposing team wasn't like the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals. I would not be surprised.
You think they work them basketball matches?
Yeah. I bet you they never lost.
Let's see. Michael Barr says we'll go through this real quick, and then we're gonna need to get off here. Is the Alabama match, Jack, the black that was pictured not long ago?
If you can find it, I can do it. Not a problem.
Yeah, just instant message him and ask him about that, Michael. He'll set you up. I heard that Dory refused to drop the belt to Briscoe, so Harley's first run was a transitional champion. Yeah, I believe he did not want to. For some reason, he didn't want to. I don't know why. That's what we've heard as well. I don't know if that's true or not, or it just so happened they just couldn't get together enough to do. I mean, because
there was a process though that they never dropped it direct anymore for a while. They would have a transition, so that the rematch between Dory and Jack would draw more. You know what? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wayne Ferris and his first cousin Jerry Lawler didn't get along. Yeah, well, I don't know many people got along with. So, Michael Barr said, Brent and Rodney, did your dad have a top 100 wrestlers that he might have liked? Jackie Fargo would have been in that. No doubt. The Fields would have been in it.
Frankie Kane would have been in it.
Yeah.
Don Fargo, for sure. I think we said that before.
Yeah. His would have been more of the 60s, more of the 60s people. Maybe some of the 70s.
There would have been Dennis Condrey would have been in there. David Schultz for sure would have been there. Bobby Eaton. Yeah, Terry Gordy would have been there.
Not nice, Jack. I'm not for sure what he was talking about. Well, what wasn't nice?
Well, I had my mic muted, but I was saying a few things. So You notice they're very quiet right now.
I thought he was going to have to go in there and take care of some business. It's like having kids, isn't it? The honky tonk man and Kevin Sullivan in the same sentence. Nope, cannot happen. They were a tag team. They were they were good too. Kevin was good then. I don't think the NWA always protected Ric Flair as the champion. Do you think this was because of all of the changes occurring in the NWA time, or were there other reasons? I think they did protect them to a certain extent. I think Jim Crockett did. What do y'all think?
Yeah
right.
I do.
I mean, you got to understand, Flair was the one that kind of, he took himself away from the territories, but then, you can't blame him completely. I mean, why would you put the person in a little spot show? Why would you bring the world champion for a week and put him in a spot show? It just made no sense. I mean, you can't blame him for being upset about that. The Nightmares were awesome at the Houston County Farm Center. Yes. Let's see. Michael Barr, just a thought here. Could territories have ever pulled the wrestlers together and made one huge card ever matter? No. You couldn't get them to agree to anything. To a certain extent, Jarrett and the Fullers were kind of family, and they couldn't even get along enough to work together. So,
well, and if you didn't have TV overlapping in certain areas, it wasn't doing you any good to bring in people outside the area that, they may have been hot in Mid-South, but nobody knew who they were in Alabama.
Yeah.
So, and I faced that on the independent level. I've had promoters wanting to do super shows, and I'm like, you draw 200 people, exactly how many of those people are going to drive 100 miles extra to do a big combined show? They're not.
No. If you guys want to laugh, watch David Schultz's AW interview about Hulk Hogan in San Francisco. I've seen it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He does a good interview. Brent, guys back then had passion about working no matter where they worked at. Yes.
Was Gene Okerlund was in that interview, wasn't he?
I think he was.
I know what you're talking.
Aaron Gray, I heard that King Kong Bundy destroyed Jerry the King Lawler's original Bobby Shane crown on television tape, and not knowing its historical and sentimental. Oh man, that'd been horrible. Oh man, he would probably cried.
Yeah,
Richard Hood Rodney said that Rodney's cosmic cookie is the cookie of knowledge.
Oh, okay, all right. Just wondering what that was. Obviously, I do not have one.
I'll put me down for a dozen.
Yeah.
Wrestling does. Michael, wrestling it's a very, when you start looking into wrestling, if you go back, wrestling had to reinvent itself a lot. And a lot of times it always had to go back to wrestling. You always had to go back to wrestling. And I think that, Dad always said that we'll always go back to wrestling. That's the most important thing in wrestling is the name wrestling. It will always go back to that. There will be one day that Vince McMahon, when he's gone, it won't do as long as he's there, but it will change. The direction of that company will change. And listen, they're successful at what they do. Let's make no bones about it. They're successful. They're doing 1.8 million people watching their show, and just think how bad that show is, and 1.8 million people watch it. Just think about it. If it was good, how many people would watch it? There might be 10 million people, 20 million people watching it now. But 1.8 million is great compared to what other programs doing these days. So
y'all know how I try to support the products regardless, but it's been 2 months since I've been able to. I just can't watch it. I tape it. I watch NXT, and that's the only one I can take. I just can't watch them anymore.
And I don't watch it, but I don't watch it because really I don't have time to watch it. We're doing all this stuff that we do. It's just not enough time to watch it. Michael Barr said, well, at least Andalusia, Alabama has some history to it. Yeah. That's true.
George, you remember the old joke about the state trooper that pulled somebody over for speeding in Andalusia, and he walked up and he started writing the ticket out and figured out he couldn't spell Andalusia. So he just let the guy go and followed him and pulled him over an op.
We're all championship matches. You've where are all the championship matches you've covered worked? Where? Okay, am I reading that wrong? I'm not for sure. I know where all the championship matches you covered worked. I believe they were. I see what he's saying now. I believe they all were works. Yes. That does not necessarily mean that it worked out that way, but I think yes, I think they all were. I think once they found out that they could work it instead of really killing each other, I think they all became.
And it was easier to do a work back then because there were so few people involved.
Yeah. Jack, Brett, and Rodney, where do you get all this wrestling information? By several different sources. That one I just did, I had to get from like 10 different sources. I would get a little bit, then I'd have to go find a little bit somewhere else, and then I'd go find some somewhere else, and I'd have to go find some. It takes a long time, and honestly, it took about 2.5 hours to do just that little bit, just to find that information. Is there a book? No, not necessarily, Michael. There's no book really. I mean, there probably is a book out there that people have wrote about that. I'm pretty sure they are. You just have to find it, but I'm pretty sure there are books out there. Rick Brooks said, I remember heavyweight boxer Ernie Shavers being special referee for some matches in Georgia. Yes.
I do too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Ole was that Ernie Holmes.
He was there too.
Yeah. You remember Ole told him, he says, "You're going to get yours, Ole," and he said, "Well, not by you, I won't."
And not now, not by you. He meant that too, because he wasn't. In fact, I don't think he lasted very long.
I don't think he did either. He wasn't that good, though. By the way, Ernie. I don't remember Ernie Shavers, but I do remember Ernie Holmes. Jack, do you think it is possible your dogs are tired of you reading?
Well, they hear me and they want to be in here with me.
Oh, that was horrible. Let's see. Let's see. Well, now who is the real Brett West? Well, I was Rodney West tonight. Tito didn't get along with Ole. No, he did not. But ain't many people got along with Ole. So they were charging me $1 for those programs. Yes, this was 50 cents. The one I just these two that I just went over.
You should have come to the spot shows. We sold them 4 for $1.
We did, didn't we? Yeah. We would. We sold a bunch of. We went to Talladega one time. We sold everybody at that place a program. We were at some high school there.
I bet
I don't think the profanity
Talladega
really at the Houston
Talladega
County
High School. Yeah. The what?
Aaron said, "I don't think the profanity rule." Well, they had the profanity rule here. It also no throwing anything in the building. This is a city law, and violators are subject to prosecution. Yeah, they did. Back then, there was anyone using profanity were removed from the auditorium. You know, Chattanooga Memorial Auditorium was the same way. You could not cuss inside that building. Well, actually, I think there was some profanity laws back then, wasn't it?
It's probably an ordinance inside the, especially not as far as inside the city. Probably in the arena itself. For sure.
Would the Great Malenko era? He wouldn't be on my top 100. No. I don't even think Dean Malenko would. Dean Malenko was good. I think he was better than his father was. Richard Hood did say Billy the Kid. The one in the hat looks like Sam Houston. Rick, you ain't the one that you ain't part of them people that made Sam Houston.
He's going to call Baby Doll to have to come over there.
Michael Barr said that number called me about vehicle warranties. Was there a team or wrestlers called the RPMs? Yeah, the Rock and Roll RPMs. Mike Davis, Tommy Lane. Yeah, Aaron told him about that too. Dory had a wreck of the Funk Ranch. That's what he said. How about an Abe Lincoln wrestling video? That's going way back.
The strangest I think thing about Abe Lincoln that I've learned is that he was in fact a vampire killer.
Hey, by the way, that's a great movie.
I seen it.
It's true. I seen it in the movie.
That axe.
The movie was well done, by the way. All right, guys, we're gonna have to get off of here. It's going on about 9:30. Thank y'all so much. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. We will be back here. We will be talking. We're going to be looking through some not programs tomorrow night. We're going to look through booking sheets and stuff like that tomorrow night at this time. We're gonna look at we're gonna go way behind the scenes and look at that stuff tomorrow. And if Rodney's got it available, I think we should look at the NWA book tomorrow. Let everybody see the NWA membership.
NWA book. I have it right here in the library. Library, not Barry.
Oh, NWA book. That's the official NWA book that all the promoters would get. You were part of the National Wrestling Alliance. We'll look at that tomorrow night. That was given to everybody that was part of that book. And I think maybe in that one, Ronnie West might be the assistant booker during this time. But I'm not for sure, but I believe that's because we have a couple of them. I just don't know where all of them are at.
Oh, yes.
All right, we're going to get off here. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. We'll look at that tomorrow. We'll look at that and we'll talk about that tomorrow night. The NWA's official membership book tomorrow, and
they spared no expense with a full color cover on this. It's green.
Well, if they spent all that money on that, they couldn't have that big Vegas parties that they had once a year. We'll see everybody.